Hello and welcome back to another casted game on the Age of Bison YouTube channel here with a 1v1 on the ranked ladder. I'm Sir Shark Dad, your host, joined here by Platypus Slayer. Say hello to the fans.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Looks like we got another exciting match for you guys, so I'm excited to get into it.
I am as well. And so here we have a game submitted on our Discord channel from EwoEwo. I hope I'm saying that right, friend. Playing Ethiopia. And with a good luck and have fun. We love to see positivity in this community that can. Oh, nice. And a you too.
And reciprocated. All right, we're already up to a great start.
Yeah, no matter how it turns out. And then Dutch, played by Booklet or Bookletti. I don't know. Sir, if you see this, I apologize. So, and we are on Sud, Sudd. I hope I'm saying that right. I feel like I'm on this map all the time on the rank ladder. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, especially in 1v1s. In 2v2s and team maps, sometimes this pops up. I don't know if it's in the ranked queue or not, but it's a really interesting map. The water really limits building placements. Definitely favors a fight in the middle, and raids are a very commonplace, or at least beneficial, if you're the raider on this map.
Yeah, a very large map at that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our shipment here is. It's Trinity, 2 villagers and an Abun. Very good. Ethiopia has that very weird interaction with the monastery. Can do influence, coin, or both. And so kind of measuring that out. But it's a very good shipment to have Abun healing as well as a gatherer on the coin. Let's take a look at the decks here. So looking at Ethiopia, I love town center attack increase, but it looks like he's got a whole mix of things. Like I feel like Ethiopia can kind of turtle a little bit pretty effectively. They can go for an FF, a semi-FF. I don't know their boom potential is if it's very good, but it seems like he's got a lot of unit shipments here, plenty of H3 cards, a lot of upgrades here.
Yeah, Ethiopia has some pretty high quality units in H2, so they're kind of infamous, you could say, for their rushing potential. But as the game has gone on and the time has gone on with patch after patch, they're kind of in a little bit of an underestimated spot right now. So
Absolutely.
I'll be curious on how EwoEwo, takes these new changes, especially with the Aben and the interactions with the Mountain Monastery, and makes something of it.
Going again for another Trinity shipment, so that's now 4 villagers in terms of shipments, and very quick shipments that he's been able to get in even without a trade post. Let's go ahead and take a look at Booklet's deck. He is already going up right now with the Quartermaster Standard Dutch. I'm wondering if he did just a house start, and I think he probably banked that wood for the first bank. This is a pretty standard-ish deck for the Dutch. You don't typically see the double wood card, but I have seen it sometimes depending on exactly what you're going for. Potential dedicated H2 play. 4 cards pretty interesting. No 1,000 coins. Sometimes you expect to see that, and 2 Merc cards there in the 3rd age. So pretty interesting, but not totally outside of the meta, I think.
That would be correct. I mean, this deck tells me that Booklet definitely wants to take his time in H2, get as many banks as he could possibly, get away with, and then using that bank eco, scale into H3 and 4.
Absolutely. Going up with Habesha right now, and I do love the granary. What a great, nice mechanic for just in terms of your micro and your macro, as you like to say. And of course, we have to, and the problem is with casting African cibs and, in this case, Ethiopia, is that I can't always watch exactly what you're doing with your cattle mechanics, because I know that that's going to be, it's a big part of your build order, being able to kind of change up exactly what you're doing, with the cattle. So it's kind of hard to
in the
keep track
case
of
of
that.
Ethiopia, not just the cattle, but they can actually use the mountain monasteries to gather influence as well. So
Right.
there's quite a bit of micro in their macro, so to speak.
Oh, and there's a 2 times prize bowl. I didn't know it was 2. Oh, interesting.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, Big Benny.
And then more, and even more semi-fattened cattle and livestock market. So Ethiopia's got a lot up its sleeve, and I'm very excited to see this game, and I'm really curious as to how it's going to pan out. And I'm really, I mean, personally want to pick them up myself, just because I feel like they're very aggressive, but then can have plenty of other options to them.
Oh yeah, and hopefully by getting this game out, we can show people. I kind of joke around because every patch, African Civ players say Ethiopia is dead, only for Ethiopia to like Freddy Krueger, come back with one hell of a build to tear up the ladder. So, maybe EwoEwo, because he was very excited to show this. Maybe he's cracked, the next code of some sort.
2 Red Sea Wagons, it looks like. So immediately getting that infrastructure out on a monasteries along with a war camp, but not training any units. 2 banks already going down for Bouclet. Very good timing right now. Only 5:30 in, and he's got those 2 banks down. He is currently sending in. I'm guessing that was the 700 wood and another bank wagon card coming in. Not another, but the one bank wagon card. Market and a barracks and a house. So really, I think pretty standard Dutch, 3 bank start, trying to get that 4th bank out, and you can definitely scale past Ethiopia, but like you said, very strong units H2 if he decides to dedicate to a push here.
Correct.
Now, interesting here. Okay, so can you explain this a little bit to me, the castle mechanic? So the thing is that some people tell me, oh, it's just an outpost, don't worry about it too much. Other people say, no, it's definitely a little bit more than that in terms of its damage and its potential. So what is your kind of take on it?
Well, Hausa has a little bit different interactions with it, but in essence, it's like a mini fort, right? It's not as powerful as a fort, and yet it's much more stronger than an outpost. It can produce a lot of units, especially like a lot of the unique influence-based ones. Again, Hausa has a little bit more interactions with their palaces because of the way their influence and universities work. But for Ethiopia, the ability to access all these very strong units, and as you can see by the stats, have a holy moly, I got to stop talking because somebody's in age 3.
That is a very fast age up timing, coming in at 653 is an H3 with Sudanese. So now he has some shotels, which are basically rods, but better, right? I think.
Or like coyote runners.
Oh, sorry, coyote runners. There we go. Sorry, not rods. Those are anti-cav. These are more of like a cheaper hussar. This dervish, which are always so hard to contend with, considering that their attack speed just increases as you get closer to them. Very interesting. And then javelin riders, which these guys, do not underestimate them as a goon unit. They are crazy good. Tokens of 1000 influence coming in as well, and then imported cannons technology. So I'm guessing that means you're going to have the influence that's going to come in, and then imported cannons allows them to recruit the falconet.
That's correct.
Okay. 4 banks already going down for the Dutch. So interesting that he's not placing these forward, but I've seen that Dutch players are kind of opting because people have started to siege down the banks now and not just ignore them as walls of health. And so sometimes various other kinds of placement have kind of become meta. And it looks like Exile Prince age up, so pretty early age up time, even though 8 minutes, pretty good for the Dutch, except this is all completely naked on each side. So already at this point, Ethiopia has been H3 for over a minute and has quite a sizable force here. And could push, whereas the Dutch are lagging behind a little bit just in terms of getting the banks up, prevents the age of time.
One strength of the Dutch, though, is, of course, their skirms effectively get a free vet upgrade once they hit 3. So, between the bank economy, their Reuters also being relatively strong shipment-wise and mass-wise, they can kind of lag behind in tempo and get away with it. So, again, we know that they scale a little bit stronger than Ethiopia until the very late game. So I'm curious to see what EwoEwo does now with this FF.
Well, we can see already right here, prior to 9 minutes even coming in, we have 2 falconets being trained, 2 500 influence each. Pretty expensive, but with that 1000 influence, you definitely can afford them. Even more, Neftenia coming in. So I'm guessing this is what I guess their skirmisher kind of unit, I believe.
That's correct. And Neftenia, probably one of the best skirmishers in the entire game, is a skirmisher with a pretty solid attack and quite a bit of HP.
Yeah, I can see that.
These units
161.
are absolutely strong.
161 versus the 144.
Yes.
So here's another thing that I wanted to point out is that neither scouted each other. So he's already going for a skirm goon combination, but just kind of assuming. But whereas here we have shotels are now in here too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Technically a 6-unit composition.
That's good. Something else to consider is the Sudanese dervish does have shorter range than most skirms, but it does melee damage, which often does bypass other skirmishers.
Right,
and
considering
range resistance.
they have the range resistance right there. So massing those is very good against Dutch, and then plus you have the falconets, and it's going to be difficult for any sort of cav to get on top.
Shot.
when you have the
Oh,
aroma
those
and
are
the
the
javelin.
aromos. Oh yeah, these things are absolute beasts too. They got many changes in the last patch. They still are 3 pop, which can be a problem, but I mean, just look at the attack speed. I mean, they effectively are doing 60 hand attack in the speed that a Hussar does.
Look at that, and they're just going to work, immediately taking out the Reiter. Two Falconets just going to work on these skirms. They're just trying to stand in line. Minutemen now being called in on Booklet's part. Banks still not having gone down. He's still looking good economically, and he does have the 8 skirmisher card coming in, and even more skirmishers going to pop here. But still, those Falconets are still going, and he has no real response.
But now the Aromo are on top of those skirms. It's going to do a number.
Oh, and they're just going to work. Look how wonderful that is. Wow, that is incredible. And he's got a pretty strong eco here, only on 19 vills compared to Bouklet's 24. I don't even think he's training villagers. That's what I end up doing. I'm like, all right, we're going to push for the win, and 5 more Aromo coming in. This is very strong, and the Abin just standing right in the middle, getting that healing in. So good. So strong, and a really great choice in terms of his unit composition here.
Yeah, Abin Micro is definitely kind of one of the cornerstones, I think, of any effective Ethiopia play. So good on EwoEwo for using that. And Bouklet, he's had a pretty solid defense, but oh, he throws in the
Oh,
towel.
okay. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess because he was popping his skirmishers right here, right out the back of the TC, and, you know, and he just kept making Reiter. He didn't have any sort of Hussar play going on to really even, and I mean, then again, he had Javelin Riders, which, you know, I don't know. I don't exactly remember how many. I think it was about 8, maybe. I don't know if they would have been able to stop Hussars from effectively taking out those Falconets and buying him time.
Absolutely. I mean, the Javelin Riders just melt. Any sort, although these are H2 Javelin Riders, so you know, a Vet Hussar, or if he would have been able to ship the Bosniaks, that you know, that could have been quite the problem. But
Very
you know,
expensive.
yes, and slow to ship as a mercenary.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
I my initial thoughts, and this is so hard when you play Dutch. You know, Dutch are a civ that people sometimes are like, oh, well, they just play passively, but there's actually a lot of risk when you play Dutch because you're always trying to balance greed versus tempo, right?
Yep.
You know, I think if he would have just gone up with 3 banks, which is what you're kind of supposed to do in the face of an FF or a relatively fast age up time, he would have been able to, you know, produce enough counter units to deal with that mass. And like you said, the Dutch eco should be superior to the Ethiopian eco. Um, of course, hindsight is always 2020. And Buclay, if you're watching this, I'm sure I don't have to tell you. Like sometimes in Age of Empires 3, especially with Dutch, you know, you got to make a choice, and the wrong choice may eventually lead you to being outscaled or outmassed by your opponent. So I think the only thing I can request, you know, feedback for there is, you know, making sure that you are scouting your opponent. But again, these African civs are so tricky; it can be really difficult sometimes to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, neither had it scouted the other, which was kind of interesting in terms of making your units, you know, what are you seeing first? And he definitely went barracks first. And it was easy for, I mean, his timing was impeccable almost. I mean, a sub 7 minute fast fortress and still had defenses up and had another card in his pocket and where the town center would have an increased attack, so it would have been hard for him to push. I see a lot of semi-FF play now with the Dutch where you open up a stable and go Hussar, and maybe, like, it's hard to look at this game and say, you know, Bouklet did anything wrong necessarily except for the scouting, and I guess you could say, okay, well, maybe you should have just, like, at that point, it's not real advice, you know, it's just a hindsight thing. But typically now Dutch is starting to engage in a Hussar semi-FF, so maybe having some units on the field early, having a you know, a pocket 5 Hussar would have maybe made the difference here. As he kind of put up a formidable defense, he still had Reiter on the field, he still had some skirms on the field.
You know, I think really the turning point too was those Aroma
Oh,
warriors,
they're
man, getting on
huge.
those terms.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And good job, you know, EwoEwo again, like the Aromo are kind of a new unit, so to speak. You know, they were considerably underpowered before. And with this last patch, you know, they got significant buffs to both, I believe, their costs and their, if it's not their cost, it's the way the unit operates. It's just a lot more efficient. It looks like he was able to utilize that and kind of almost like a Chinese death ball kind of thing. He had so many different units and he had crisp micro. So he was able to get the units that he needed to onto the opponent's, you know, units that the opponent did not want to be engaged. So I mean, really crisp build order from EwoEwo. I would not have expected it to from Ethiopia, which tended to be a longer H2 Civ as well.
Yeah, you can see like when I've played against Ethiopia, I mean it's just show tell to death, and it's tough, but you see this like almost 90-degree jump, like right at, like even like prior to H3, like you see just right at the same time, just this like massive influx of units. Now sporting 32 units in a timing attack that's landing at 9 minutes exact is very good. I think very, very good. And then two falconets behind that is quite strong, and it's hard for the Dutch to deal with a sort of timing attack unless they've already been applying the pressure and already having units out. So I completely agree with you, Chris. Build order. Interesting to see a villager count like that. With the timing attack like this, you do obviously have to slow down your pace, but plenty of idle time here, obviously, just as he was pushing, but still, like, if he kept producing villagers, there wouldn't have been this sharp of a drop off in the difference, right? So it feels like Ethiopian economy, at least in the early and mid game, will definitely keep pace. Obviously, those banks will overtake, but it looks pretty good with the granaries, I think.
Yeah, well, it's the combination, I think, of the avens. Like even if you look at his age times, like it's so fast back to back, right?
Yeah.
That's suggesting that his macro is very clean. Again, if anyone's watching this and you're interested in Ethiopian build, I really encourage you to maybe rewind from this point and check it out, because, or even go to Discord. We'll plug that at the end, and you can ask the big man himself, because this is definitely a practice build, and I can see why he was pretty proud of it, because again, his economy may not have scaled with Dutch, but it was good enough, and that's all you need in a 1v1 to win.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Defense. You had two villager shipments coming in. And I mean, and it's so nice to have this thing. This is underestimated, I think. War camp, you can train both kinds of units right from one building. Very convenient. Just saves so much in resources and time. So, but yeah, I mean, I thank EwoEwo for submitting this to us, for letting us pick it over, cast over it. Obviously nobody's perfect, but this is a well executed build order, and I think can really make Ethiopia shine in. I think they have the H2 rush play that's available to them, and then now obviously a naked FF that's got a really strong timing attack with it. And of course, thanks to Bouclet, or Bouclet, again, I don't know, but thanks for being such a good sport, for letting us cast this game. And I think you played extremely well as well. And it just kind of comes with, like you were saying, Platypus, like just the risk and reward of Dutch, and it can be kind of tough sometimes. So. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in for this Cast a Game in the Age of Bison YouTube channel. If you like what we do, go ahead and leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit that awesome number 400. Getting pretty close now. It would be a great Christmas present for us here and the team to hit that subscribe count. And if you're interested, you can always head over to the Discord, actually, that we have in the description. If you're enjoying Age of Empires 3, looking for a good community to get in touch with, play the games with us, then go ahead and head on over and join the Discord. Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you in the next one.